Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Nneka Nwokolo and welcome to Science on the Sofa. I'm joined today by my two guests, Randy Jackson and Mercy Shibemba.
So good to be here.
Yes, I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And I started doing HIV in 1996 at a time when people living with HIV were dying to people living for years and years, and now to a situation where the majority of people living with HIV can expect a normal life expectancy. So Randy, what's your HIV journey?
Oh, I tested positive about 32 years ago, 1990. A lot of my friends were dying at the time, and then we all got on these protease inhibitors, and the world changed for us in a dramatic way, yes.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I was born with HIV in 1998, and I often talk about how really lucky I was to be born just kind of on the other side of, you know, the protease inhibitors coming out. I'm really fortunate to have been born at a time where, and in a place where I have access to treatment.
So I'm going to ask you some questions, and if you know the answer, I want you to press on your buzzer. True or false? It's estimated that the percentage of people living with HIV aged over 50 will increase from 28% in 2010 to 73% in 2030.
Oh,
Randy.
I think that's true, right? It really shifted the way in which I think I lived my life, right? Because I was always planning to shut my life down and exit, right? And this sort of opened it up to have me dream about what could be beyond, what would be, you know, I started planning for retirement, which is something that I've never thought was going to be possible. So I'm really excited by this idea that the therapies are allowing us to live this almost normal lifespan.
So I have another question, and it flows on a little bit from the question that I just asked Randy. True or false? The only people who need to think about getting older are people living with HIV. Oh, Mercy got to it first.
That is false. It feels a bit funny talking about getting older with HIV when I'm only 24, but actually the reality for so many young people who have grown up with HIV, you know, in that kind of post antiretrovirals, you know, getting much better, is that we'll have been on treatment for a very long time by the time we get to the kind of over 50 stage of our lives. And I think it's really important to consider that as a young age. It's just really important to remember that and plan to live well so that you can support yourself best in later life.
I have another question. Again, true or false? People living with HIV are at greater risk of isolation and depression than people without HIV.
I think
Randy.
Yeah,
okay.
and I jumped at it because early in my career, we did this study around depression, experience of depression and responses to depression among Indigenous people living with HIV. This was an idea that came to us from community. They noticed for themselves that they were experiencing this sense of isolation, this sense of depression. What we found in that earlier study that we did is that when we work to connect people, right, when we work to connect them with their families or with their communities or with other friends, that it starts to address some of that sense of disconnection that they experience and feel.
So you have an isolated person living with HIV who doesn't know anyone or doesn't have family. How does that person connect with other people?
I try to create a space where it's safe for those people to walk into and then take them along with me, right?
Those affected by HIV are also potentially at risk of mental health issues, and I think across the board we really need to be focusing on neuroscience and actually the impact of HIV on the brain, but also physically, spiritually, emotionally. We need to be going much much more beyond the biomedical markers of what it means to live with HIV in terms of mental health, and actually looking at the environments that people live in and pushing for policy that can make for greater environments. And I think, yeah, that's really where I want to see the conversation heading, in a really serious and meaningful way.
And that speaks to this whole issue of 95, 95, 95, 95, the fourth 95, which is, you know, so you talked about the biomedical model, which is really basically viral load undetectable, CD4 count good, physically things are okay, but actually what's your quality of life? How are you living your life? Are you healthy in body and in spirit? And those things are really important to think about, not just about the numbers. Thank you very much, Mercy and Randy, for playing our game. You have been exceptional guests, and you handled the buzzers remarkably. It's been a huge pleasure speaking to you this evening, and I hope that you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us, and I think it's been, a great conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
It's a pleasure.